All right, the Xbox 360 store is officially closing or closed by the time you're watching this, and I wanted to talk with my good friend Epos Vox about the 360, a bit of a big video, kind of a retrospective on the 360 era, although nothing's really shut down other than the ability to purchase some of these old 360 marketplace like pieces of content. It's not just games, right? It's videos and some movies too.
Yeah, it's like a weird combination era of everything, and it does come with some 360 games are having their servers shut down this year. It's not Microsoft's doing, but it's a big shift where everyone's kind of saying goodbye to Don Matrick's favorite console.
You can still download the old stuff if you've purchased it before, and if I've read correctly, right? You aren't losing access to it. It's not time to preserve the hard drive, right?
Yeah, currently. Well, yeah. For now, you're good. Yeah, it's always the canary in the coal mine. But for now, you're good. You can re-download everything, and they just made like the variety map pack for COD 4 free, so like you can keep downloading that and play it indefinitely, which is pretty cool.
It was pretty nice. There was like a solid sale that has gone on the last like month and a half for a lot of these games. And initially I was like, okay, no big deal. Most of the games, right? The backwards compatibility is there for the most part, but really looking at it, there's a ton of games, right, that aren't on the backwards compatibility program that will just no longer be accessible or purchasable, correct?
Yes. It's especially with a lot of the arcade titles and just like random games here and there, because as much as Xbox and even us, like those of us who were hyped for it, kind of hyped up the backwards compatibility program, they were very selective with it. It was, in the grand scheme of things, a handful of games that they carefully like curated and brought forward, which meant that long term we didn't get everything, even though it's running on like the base emulators that they already had. Like you only get a select number of games.
It's just kind of a bummer, honestly.
Yeah.
And I always hate this portion because if there's no way to acquire it, like preservation is something I know you're really passionate about, which is part of the reason I wanted to talk with you today. So what has the community reaction been so far with the shutdown? And then like, what's your personal sort of response to this shutdown? I mean, it's one of the biggest server hosting platforms in the world. I can't imagine this is costing them a ton of money to still host, right?
Yeah, that's always the confusing aspect of it. It's like, well, George over here can host like 3 64-player Call of Duty World at War servers for 20 years, but Microsoft can't host, this one game for like 2 people. But there's got to be some, they have the upkeep of security and keeping it connected with whatever modern stuff. Like there's clearly some motivator to make it worth, because frankly, it's more work sometimes to shut these things down and transition than to keep them up. Like clearly there's something to make it worth it. I've honestly been surprised, like it's been taken better by the broad like gaming scene and community than some of the previous shutdowns. Everyone was racing to grab their 3DS games, or people like the completionists were buying up every single Wii U game and things like that. Whereas I feel like everyone's a little bit more chill with the Xbox, and I don't know if we're just conditioned to it now. I don't know if everyone's ready to move on to the next one. But personally, I'm a little bummed, only because I'm the kind of person who doesn't get all his gaming out in the here and now. There's plenty of the arcade games that are like heavy hitters that are still on my to-do list that I was just like, I'll get to in 10, 20 years. And with physical games, like they're still sitting on my shelf. I will get to them. But with these kinds of things, it's like I have to either cut my losses and just accept that I'm just never playing X, Y, or Z, or I need to start making some decisions to get them now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I was looking back through.
And I don't want to freak out about it, but
yeah, I always feel like the same FOMO. And obviously, like if people are watching this on the launch date, the store goes down today at some point. So you're kind of out of luck. I'm sure the community will find some way for preservation through emulation or something like that. But it is one of those things where, okay, with the Wii U and the 3DS eShop shutting down, that one really did feel like wait, why? I know what was 3DS, like 2011 or something, and that just doesn't feel as long ago as it is. Right. Whereas like with the 360, I feel like most of their ecosystem had already moved on to the VCR or onto the series consoles at this point. And like you said, they've got more emphasis on backwards compatibility. So a lot of the popular titles had already like made the transition over. So I'm bummed, obviously. But like you said, it's not one of those things where I'm going to rush out and buy like 30 of these games. I've been looking, we're recording this just a day or two before the shutdown, and there might be a couple of pickups. But mainly the one I'm most bummed about is like the arcade games, because the Xbox Live Arcade was so cool. And maybe we just start there talking about kind of the legacy of the 360, some of our favorite things. You mentioned it. What was the Xbox Live Arcade? For somebody who didn't like pay attention, was it around in the 360 era? And what were some of your favorite games?
This is going to sound very ironic because we're talking about the shutdown of servers and like the need for preservation. And we're in a very attempting to be digital only landscape where we're seeing the consequences of that in terms of like games shutting down and whatever. But at the time, in 2007, 2008, whenever it officially released, it was this whole new world of where games could be published cheaper digital only without having to buy the disc. And as long as you didn't have the 4 gigabyte Xbox, if you had the bigger ones, you could just download these cool small games that were small enough to download on internet connections for the time, like Trials, or we just noticed freaking Minecraft is on there because it wasn't a Microsoft title yet.
Yeah.
You could download these cool, sometimes indie, sometimes bigger publisher games that just provided a whole unique experience, because a lot of the time you were focused on, for consoles, it was mostly about the AAA stuff. You were buying your Red Deads, your Grand Theft Auto, your Assassin's Creed, your Call of Duty, your Halo, your Gears of War. And with this, you got like one of my favorites was Castle Crashers.
Oh,
it was a little cooperative. You could play 4 players, old school style dungeon crawlery game like Gauntlet or something, but with like a cartoony aesthetic. And you could play it online because Xbox Live. So we were seeing the like beauty of online multiplayer just being baked into the console, and this new world of being able to have quick and easy digital downloads of games. And it was really cool. Like, it was really exciting at the time. Another one I'm just looking at the list, Gotham City Imposters. It is no longer playable at this point, but it was a hero shooter before hero shooters existed. You played as like various themed characters from DC games, so you had your Batman style characters, your Jokers or whatever, and it was a ton of fun. And it was one of those games you only got through the downloads. And with these kinds of, obviously, again, the servers for it are shut down, but with these kinds of shutdowns, like it's available on other platforms. But were it not, you would lose access to these kinds of experiences because it would cost a lot of money to put them on disc.
Yeah, and it went further back than that. It was on the original Xbox. I think it came out in November of 2004. And at that time, it really was like arcade-focused games like Miss Pac-Man and Contra. But it was kind of unique in the fact that it was encouraging you to like upload your high scores, show them off online. It was this, like you said, they introduced the idea of these smaller, old-timey classic experiences. And then it ultimately like turned into a really cool, curated, like digital indie space with really, really great games. My favorite by far was Trials. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Trials Evolution or HD or one of them. And I just played the heck out of that game. And it was the ecosystem. It's like what you had just mentioned, where a lot of these titles, you can go and play, or they were available on other platforms. But when I was in my teen years, I had a 360, and that was it.
Yeah, back then we didn't have the triple stack of your Switch with your PS4, with your Xbox One, and your PC next to it.
Oh, yeah. Didn't have a gaming PC. Saved up a ton to get a laptop before college. And, of course, it was a Mac, so it couldn't do any gaming whatsoever. My 360 was the console, and that is part of why I loved it so much. It just did sort of everything I wanted it to do so well, and it was just the most amazing evolution of online social gaming at the time. And that's what really stands out to me. It's not just, okay, Nexus was another cool arcade title, or Trials. I think even Minecraft, like Xbox 360, was arcade.
Yep.
It was the fact that you could pull up, the cool, nice Blade system, enter a party chat with your friends, and just enjoy the social aspect. It was Discord and, online gaming all in one little spot with cool, features left, right, and center from the social standpoint. You know kind of what I'm saying?
Yeah, like you mentioned the ecosystem. We absolutely did not have Discord back then, and I completely remember I would come home from like high school or college classes and just leave my Xbox Live party up so that people could just join as I was doing like my homework or whatever, and we'd chat.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we'd hop in a few matches of Halo or Call of Duty. And in between matches, that's when you'd fire up your arcade games. That's when you'd fire up like Castle Crashers or Geometry Wars or the Uno game that was really popular for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was like the intermission kind of lobby thing when you were waiting on everyone, where you could swap between them because you had the global party instead of needing to be in your group chat or whatever. It kind of completed the experience. Like these days, you think about the kids that while they watch movies or in between playing games, they pull up, a game on their phone or whatever. Like we had all this built into the Xbox that seemed like such a cool future.
Do you remember the watch party thing with Netflix and
Yes.
360, where with your Xbox avatar you could sit in this little virtual theater with your friends and watch a Netflix like piece of content together? Like that's so cool. That was way ahead of the whole watch party thing,
Yeah.
Like you had mentioned something, right? At the time, no Discord. It was Skype or like Ventrilo. And if you were using Vent, you obviously were like way further down the gaming rabbit hole.
Right.
And Skype was such a turd. Like I remember how laggy and horrific the security issues. Or you could just see that, hey, like M Vito's in a party. I'm gonna hop in. Oh, Diddy's in here also. You guys are playing Halo 3. Can I join?
Yeah. And we
you
didn't have
just
the
don't get
setups
it.
to like do the PC voice chat while we were on the console anyway at the time. So it was so much easier to just be like, friends are playing this, friends are playing this, friends are playing this. Everyone's in these parties. And you could just like hop between them. Got a slot? All right, I'm in.
Yep. Oh, I loved it. Well, then let's transition to some of the big iconic standout games, the big moments from the console, like not the hidden gems, but when you think back to some of the big titles that really resonated with you when you were playing the 360, what were those and what stands out to you the most when you think back to those games or anything about those experiences?
I mean, we can't be on this channel and not mention Halo.
Of course.
But
Of course.
Beyond that, I mean, I really miss Gears of War. Like early Gears of War multiplayer. When everyone was so used to Halo and Call of Duty. Like it was such a shift going to third person and then having the cool chainsaw fights and stuff. Like it was almost like the summer blockbuster in between the other games whenever we'd all like rush into Gears 3 lobbies or something.
I remember going to GameStop to pick up Gears because I had seen some video package, probably on XPlay, like probably watching G4 at the time. Cliff Bleszinski, I knew from Unreal Tournament because I played the heck out of Unreal Tournament 2004, and it just looked so cool. And I got turned away. I had to go like back to the GameStop with my dad because I wasn't 17 at the time to pick up the game. And I remember loving it. And then also I took my 360 on a band trip and we played Gears of War in the hotel room like all night long, either 3 or 4 player co-op. I'm trying to remember, was it 2 player co-op only in Gears of 1?
I'm pretty sure it was only 2 player.
So we just did
Marcus
2
and Dom,
people.
and that was it.
Yeah. And that just stood out so much. But yeah, you reminded me, I'll probably put Gears 3 footage here because my gosh, those complete experience games like Halo and Gears of War, where you would get a killer campaign, you would also have an amazing multiplayer, and you would also typically have a cool co-op mode, like a PvE thing like Horde or Firefight. And you got all of that day one, your $60 game. I really miss that. I mean, we've talked about this a bunch. Now, instead of getting that complete package and knowing you're getting a new Gears or Halo game every 3 years and it's going to deliver that, now you get one game mode that's supposed to last 10 years, like Apex or whatever. It's just, we're a BR, we're going to be here for 10 years, we're going to milk it as long as possible. It's no wonder I feel like people are falling out of sync and going live service so frustrating, so bad. It's like, well, man, every 3 years you used to get this 5-6 hour campaign that was replayable. You would get this multiplayer that was really replayable. No, it didn't have the level of updates that live service does, but it was still really fun. And then on top of it, again, co-op and PvE all in one little package. I mean, FPS and like third-person shooter games were so good on the 360. That's just something we don't really get anymore, you know?
Yeah, and for like most people that had realistic schedules, because most of us were in school at the time that were like really hardcore into this, like the variety of modes helped offset what would now be described as like a content drought. Like back then, you got a game and that was it. You'd be it was exciting to get new map packs or whatever, but you mainly just had what was shipped with the game. But you had such different experiences. Like the single player and co-op game was so much different than the Horde mode, which was so much different than the PvP multiplayer, that if you got bored of what was provided in the multiplayer experience, you went and grinded Horde with some friends and had a completely different experience. You weren't focused on just, like you said, just the BR for 10. Like, you're gonna get bored of that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why
I feel like
mean
we've lost that. I don't know.
We've totally lost that. Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll rotate back to it, but I don't think so. I mean, all we hear about, and maybe I'm going off on a tangent, is just how unsustainable like the pace of live service games are these days, and the scope is so massive, and it's usually just for a singular mode or like these occasional limited time events. I don't know. The live service debate is separate, but I will say Halo 3 is the 360 to me.
Yes.
And there's never been anything like it. The social features of the 360 paired with, the gameplay of Halo 3, the whole ecosystem of Xbox, it really was incredible, and it was the thing that you would come home and just boot up. And I kind of miss that. Like you mentioned, it's really cool now. I have a PC and my 360 still and a Switch. But there's a lot of those thoughts where you hop on and you think, what do I want to play? Most of my friends and your friends as well, we've like grown older. We're not all gaming, as often as we are. And when we do, it's very separate experiences. There was something so cozy about coming home to the 360, booting it up. And you really were playing games with your friends almost continually. And that just was fantastic. So yeah, Halo obviously is like the huge standout for me. I do remember games like Forza Motorsport was pretty fun on the system. Like Dark Souls 2 was another big standout for me. Grand Theft Auto 4 I played because my roommate in college let me try the disc, and the first GTA game I had ever played, and I thought it's way cool. I enjoyed it way more than GTA 5. It's still a really good game, and if you pick it up on the PC, it's a horrible port. So playing it on the 360 is actually still a pretty quick and convenient way to play a solid version of that game.
Yeah.
And the last title I can think of is BioShock. I went to a friend's house in high school after school. This kid was totally down like the gaming rabbit hole. He built a custom PC. It was like a really sick mini ITX case or something. Like, he knew what he was doing. He had a giant HD projector in his room, and he pulled up BioShock. He would go thrifting too and get these old 70s, 80s speakers and like old amps and stuff.
Goodness,
and the first 10 minutes of BioShock I saw on this giant wall-sized HD projector on these loudspeakers. And I was like, okay, this is gaming is the sickest thing ever. I've got to buy this. And just good memories,
I have fond memories of trying out BioShock for the first time. I wound up getting, I played on my parents' old plasma TV, which had tons of input lag. And so I wound up getting motion sick from the water bobbing at the start of BioShock. But I have fond memories of just discovering all the cool single player games on the 360, because I tried out BioShock. There was the original Prey.
Oh, yeah.
Dead Space.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Prototype. Do you remember Prototype?
I don't know.
It's kind of like Infamous. Like you're this alien.
I do remember this box.
Hybrid. Yeah. Everyone saw the box, even if they didn't play the game.
Yes.
It was basically like Infamous. It was a lot of fun. And just finding these really cool single player games. And of course, Mass Effect. Classic time. There was such a good 2007 to 2010 was just such a good range of these really killer titles.
And I couldn't afford a PS3. I didn't get a PS3 until almost the end of its lifespan, just because of the price difference. And I went through quite a few 360s. The first was a Christmas gift, and it red ringed. And I don't remember if it got warranted. I think it did. And then when I moved to college, I knocked over the 360 or something, and it just broke. It straight up broke. And I should have taken it. There was a cool mom and pop game shop where I was going to school, and I should have taken it there. But I ended up just later that day buying the arcade edition of the old white Xbox 360, upgrading the hard drive. And I think that's the one that survived and the one that stuck with me. But you are kind of a connoisseur of collecting. And so I imagine you probably have every iteration of the 360 and then some, right?
Just about. So I started with like an original white Elite or whatever. I had the extra fan booster on the back, which was not a good idea, but I didn't know that at the time. And I never had the Wi-Fi adapter, so we ran Ethernet to our basement where we played it.
Yep.
That unfortunately died in a flood, and so then we got the black Elite at one point, and then I picked up a Slim for myself because I wanted to be able to play Halo like in my room, separate from our house gaming setup. And then since then, I have acquired a few more Elites, and I have like the Super Slim, although it's like it's a used eBay model, so it's like super gross. I was gonna mod it. I don't know what I want to do with it because it's way grosser than I imagined. But every time someone mentions knocking over their Xbox, I always want to share 2 super quick stories because it just like everyone struggled with these kinds of things with the system. So the original Xbox, when you first bought it, all of the paperwork for it showed it standing on its side.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was a revolutionary, like the PS2 could do it, but like the original Xbox obviously could not. I had one of those roller like game carts that for my original Xbox that perfectly housed the original Xbox and my controllers and stuff in the drawer. And so when we upgraded, we swapped out the Xbox for the 360. Everything said to put it on its side, so we put it on its side. It was like the day after Christmas. My buddy and I booted up Halo 3. We made it halfway through the game and it crashed. And the game would no longer run. And it's because having it on its side on like a wobbly surface etched a ring in the side of the Halo 3 disc, and it could no longer read it. And we made it halfway through the game and couldn't finish. Thankfully, GameStop was super cool and was like, all right, we'll swap it this one time. By the way, we have, our disc warranties or whatever the heck.
Yeah. And sell you a copy of their magazine.
Yeah. And then my buddy's 360, I always went over to his house to play Halo 3 multiplayer with him and his brother. And his little brother stepped on we had it on the floor. The bedroom was super jank. He stepped on the 360 and it messed up his DVD drive only for Halo somehow. And we had this whole ritual where every time we booted up Halo, we had to wait for it. Instead of showing like the Microsoft logo and the copyright text and everything for Halo 3, it just showed a green screen. If we saw that instead of the real stuff, we knew the game would work. If it showed the real stuff, the game would not run. And so every time we'd be like, wait for the green, green screen, we can play.
Oh my gosh. That's kind of amazing. And I feel a lot better knowing this because it was the first day in my dorm room of college when I knocked it over, and I felt so horrific.
Yeah.
So horrific because, I really was not stoked to go to school. I knew I needed to go get the degree, do all those things, but I loved my hometown, and I just was like, okay. So I was looking on the bright side. I never had Ethernet internet growing up. I always grew up way far out in the country, and the internet was super spotty. The only time I got to play Halo Online was going to a friend's house, which I did like all the time. So I was super pumped, high-speed net, like for the first time in literally day one. So I think I went later that day to Best Buy to go get
I'm not losing this.
And speaking of the discs, for this video, I tried to install Black Ops 1 on the 1X that I've got here because I'm not digging out the old white 360 out of the closet. But the disc for Black Ops 1 is so mangled and destroyed.
No.
I remember like buying a digital version of Black Ops 1 so I could keep playing it because this disc is so unreadable. It won't even recognize it enough just so the Xbox One like can go download the digital backwards compatible version. And
I had to do the same thing for COD 4.
Yes.
And then for some reason, the discs for Modern Warfare 2 had like some sort of flaw where the center ring that, like the case attaches to,
it's kind of
would
cracked,
always
right?
chip and break.
Yeah, that's what happened with the Black Ops 1.
Yeah, I have like 3 that are like that. And then when I worked at GameStop, we literally had an entire like giant tote full of Modern Warfare 2 copies that people would trade in and we would give them credit for, but then we would just like put in the trash basically because there was no saving them. And it was all that same little chip and crack in the center ring.
A lot of my 360 library I don't even have anymore because of like I would go trade it in at GameStop. And to be honest, like now at this age, I'm like, I wish I kept a lot of those games. But back then,
at the time, it was so great.
It's so cool that you could play a game, enjoy it, and then go get money for it to try something else.
Yeah, or if you hated it, you could just be like, all right, never mind.
Yeah, for real. I forgot to mention also, Battlefield 3 on the 360 was unbelievably fun. I don't know how they made that port function, and especially like you just went back and played it recently because the server shut down for it, right, for 360?
Yeah, they're shutting down very soon.
Okay, and what was your thoughts playing it on the old console?
it was so hard because I remember being absolutely blown away by it. Like, this was the coolest multiplayer experience I've ever had. And it is pushing the Xbox to its absolute limits. Like, it is locked to 30 frames per second. You can feel a ton of input lag. All of the effects that were such a big deal for the time, like the lens flares and the depth of field blur and all of that, are like, make it so hard to see what's going on.
Yeah.
The resolution is so low, so everything's all jaggy and blurred. And it's just like, this was so impressive to me. And now I'm like, I can't see. I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, man. I love some of those ports. It's just incredible, like what we would put up with.
Yeah, it brings the 360 to its knees. And even like back in the day, the Operation Metro map, you know, the most popular map in the game, if you played it long enough, it would just shut off your Xbox. Like you would hope to not see the last stage of the map because your Xbox would probably turn off.
I kind of remember like playing Halo 4 BTB in the day. I was absolutely terrified that it was going to melt because I would stream it and we would play for like 2-3 hours and it absolutely, like, there's some games where you hear the fan and you're like, this is crushing my 360. Well, let's transition to some of the features, the innovations that happened. I want to talk about basically Xbox Live revolutionizing online gaming, kind of the role of the 360 in popularizing achievements and the whole gamer score culture. What stands out most to you during this era, especially on the multiplayer side? I know we talked about party chat and the friends list, but there's a lot of significance with the 360 and the online ecosystem.
So you already brought up Halo 3. I want to throw this back for a minute. You know how Nintendo always ensures at least a couple of their first party games truly shows what their new system is capable of? Or like back in the day, they would develop entire games to show off the accessories or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Halo 3 was like that for the entire Xbox ecosystem.
That's a great point.
You had all of the social integration, you had the PvP integration, you had file sharing and the developer's ability to just update this community list of like files that you could download from each other of like maps or screenshots or video clips that had never been seen before in a game, even on PC, really.
Yep.
And you remember the Halo Waypoint app?
Yeah.
We had a hub where you could like share your ranks and your match history, and then you could go on the website and look at heat maps of where you like most often die or like kill people, your favorite weapons, and also share files like on the forums. Like, it was a testament to everything that system was capable of.
We've never gotten back to that. You can do direct comparisons like with Infinite and Halo 3 when it comes to the social features. You still can't even share theater files easily with Infinite, and the theater mode is always borked anyway. So it is a really good comparison, I feel like. Yeah, Halo 3, even though it predated Party Chat, because Party Chat was 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you had your in-game chat first, and then Party Chat came later.
It still was
able
to like...
with it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You could set up a custom game, and your friends could see that you were in the game and just hop in. You didn't even have to invite them.
Well, remember, like, Halo 2 revolutionized the paradigm of matchmaking, right?
Yeah.
Server browser stuff was pretty much everything. Yeah. And so Max Hoberman, I think, was instrumental in that. And there's some probably good tweets and stuff where I think I've read about him. They knew intimately, like, what 360 was trying to do with that online ecosystem. And they probably, like, worked pretty closely hand in hand to share ideas or at least intentions. So, yeah, I've never had, like I said, a better multiplayer experience ever. I know you can go and intentionally now do it with objectively like better tools through Discord and all these things.
Sometimes. Have you remember trying to join each other's matches in Halo Infinite on PC? Like, it's still not great.
It's horrible. Yeah. I mean, it's improved substantially, but like that's a solid point. Yeah. I enjoyed that they made it accessible to such a large group of people, and it didn't feel segmented. Everything feels like a very closed-off, smaller, niche community. And sometimes you can get a lot more out of those, which is great, but there was something amazing about going into lobbies, and everybody had an Xbox communicator thrown in. You met and talked with people. I mean, most of my gaming friends came from 360 and have been that way like the whole time. Yeah, there was horrible, horrible things that you heard online. And obviously... moderation and all of those things have had to evolve and change and improve over time. But we truly have lost some pretty special elements that originated really in the 360 Live era.
I think the Xbox team really saw the writing on the wall. They switched to including Wi-Fi on the console because you had to buy that. Like, so it wasn't accessible at first, and they were like, wait, we need to build this in. They either included it or, shipped the newer Xboxes with wireless built in. They included a headset, which PlayStation did not. They even sold a keyboard so you could like plug it into your controller and start texting each other. Xbox is responsible for like online gaming being as prevalent as it is now. Like, it probably would have still gotten there, but Xbox led that like 100%. Even like innovations that carried over to PC, where we obviously were already online, but it wasn't the same kind of like camaraderie.
I know what you're saying. I'm thinking about right now is my 360 dashboard versus the Xbox One dashboard. And the whole argument is right there. Xbox, like the original, and the 360 were built for the gamer. It brought in awesome features. Yeah, all of my friends would watch Netflix with their 360. Like, that was the smart TV before the smart TV.
Yeah.
But at the core, all of the features were supporting playing awesome games and playing them and sharing them with your friends.
Yeah.
Xbox One, you look at that dashboard, it's Microsoft. It's corporate. It's the same tile design of every streaming service, and all the features are about monetization. Like, let's face it, like at the core of almost all of the features, it's just engagement that doesn't feel as authentic towards providing a great player experience as much as it is just geared towards ensuring monthly active user numbers and getting money, Yeah.
It's the typical cycle of make the coolest thing and then try to reap the most money from it. But you really got to have a balance of still being the coolest thing. And it feels like every year we get away from it. But I just think about even the weird change going from the old Blades dashboard to the newer one that was a little bit more corporate. They did some weird stuff. Like, they introduced your Mii's. They weren't
the avatars.
Your little 3D avatars and whatever. But even all of that was still around socializing. Like, there were some microtransactions. You could like buy outfits and stuff, but they didn't really push it. It was just like, here's what you look like, and here's all of your friends around you. Maybe go do something with them. Like, they tried to make it feel so social no matter what. And I just think back to, like, I was playing first-person shooters like multiplayer on PC well before I had an Xbox 360 and online on there. Yep. And I never made friends with it in the same way. Like, I'd have little clans in Halo or Counter-Strike or whatever, but we only talked through text. There was not a whole lot of communication. And just the difference between even just like my first experience having my mic on and people just chatting in game and starting to party up or whatever. Like, it was completely different.
I mean, my friends list is all people from the 360.
Yes.
They're all people from the 360, and like seeing the notification come across the bottom when one of your friends would come online, and you're like, all right, here we go. Yeah. The night is about to get started.
Diddy has logged in. Schmeckledorf has logged in. Lavitz is logged in. Wait, what? Playing Halo 3. Invited you to party. Yes!
That's right.
Mom, I'm not coming to dinner.
It was really, really cool, and I hope we get something like that in the future, some synthesis of all of this, or it might just be this little pocket in time. I'm glad that we were a part of it. Before I extend to the viewers, I'll just say, anybody watching this, I want to read your story. I want to hear about it. Let us know down in the comments below. Favorite 360 game or memory or whatever. Really, really interested, because this was a special time. Anything else, Epos, like that we missed? Any stories or memories that just jump out at you that you really just cherish?
Guitar Hero and Rock Band.
Oh.
Obviously, it existed on the Wii, by far the worst version. It existed on the PS3, but like Guitar Hero and the Xbox kind of went hand in hand, especially because of the easier online multiplayer stuff. That entire genre of party music games that you could play online was just like another, like you said, a pocket in time of just like this worldwide phenomenon that if you were there, it was the coolest thing in the world. And looking back on it, it's like, what happened? And there's a lot of reasons why it went away, but like, it was so cool to pick up a pretend instrument and rock out to download real music and to have new tracks keep coming out for it. And then to be able to invite your friends and like play alongside them, screaming your lungs out over the internet. None of that would work like with streaming today, but it was still so cool.
It was so cool. I've kicked myself so hard for getting rid of my PlayStation 2 Guitar Hero controller and my 361. They're expensive, $90 for the cheap one on Amazon, and that's for the Wii U one, which I think you can put onto the PC for like Clone Hero and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna bite the bullet and buy it because Guitar Hero. This is a weird story, but I love rhythm games. I grew up playing piano and drums, and like rhythm games always hit super hard. Our good friend Blizzard Ball is like way down the rhythm game rabbit hole. And I was playing like Guitar Hero 2 one night when a history teacher from high school called home to tell my parents like, hey, your kid's not doing as well in my class as he should. I'm missing these two things. His grades are bad. So my parents came in and just like tore me up and like, are you slacking? All this stuff. This is kind of like a villain origin story, really. I literally went to my backpack. I pulled out the 3 assignments that the teacher said were missing. They were graded by him. They were A's, by the way. They were like good grades that he hadn't put into the book. So the next day we go to the high school together. My parents like show him the thing. He like says, oh, sorry, my bad, basically. But I remember like that has stuck with me forever as a Guitar Hero 2 memory because I was in the middle of something and then like the whole mood like was over. Like it just was a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
And honestly, from that point onward, I hated high school. I was completely checked out on school at that point because it was like, you're supposed to be like this authority figure. You're supposed to be the person who handles this stuff. I did everything right, and yet I'm going to get like just thrashed over this. So
I'm 5-starring through the fire and flames on expert, and you can't even grade my paper right?
For real. Like they were A's, they were B's. I was shredding. Come on. But that really was, though, the moment I look back and I'm like, I hated school from that point onward. I thought it was the biggest waste of time. So.
Yeah.
Oh, Guitar Hero. Oh, man. Well, 360 was great. I like doing these videos, so maybe we could... Hopefully no other storefront shut down. Let's do these retrospects before the end of one of these big, milestone moments. But thanks, Epos. This was a ton of fun. And like I said, anybody in the comments, please share. Also, check out all of Epos's channels. He runs an amazing gaming channel in addition to his massive tech channel. It's called Lost Saves. You've got to go watch it. Really old school, great commentaries. Just want to thank you for being here today again, man.
Thank you for having me. I have a stack of 360s, and you can still pick up the discs cheap if you want to pop them in your Xbox Series X or Xbox One or whatever and still play those since the backwards compatibility works. It's a lot of fun. Well, I'll miss the store, but hopefully we'll see plenty of those games again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.